Hello guys, and welcome to a brand new video from me, Pickles Park Reviews. Now, some of you might be quite surprised by this video coming into your subscription box because I don't probably strike you as the kind of guy who would like football, although there have been some subtle hints if you've been watching my videos for a while. I mean, there is the obvious thing that I wear a lot of football shirts in a lot of my videos, most of those not about football. I'm even wearing one right now, obviously, because if there would be time to wear a football shirt in a video, it would be in a video that's actually about football. There's also the fact that I have actually tried to do football content before. I've done about 3 failed Dream Team series, a series where I look at my Dream Team each week. I had 3 iterations of those and they all failed to the point that I couldn't even be bothered doing one for this season. Even though I haven't been making a consistent run of football videos, that doesn't mean that off camera I'm not really into football, because I very much am. Even though I, as I said, don't make videos on football all too often and I'm actually really crap at playing football, I just love watching football and reading up on football and keeping up with football and playing football related games and all this kind of stuff. This season I've actually really enjoyed watching, especially as I'm a Liverpool fan. It's probably the best season that Liverpool fans have had in years. That's kind of what urged me to make this video, because I did want to do a season review at the end of last season when Liverpool won the Champions League, but I'll be honest, I couldn't be bothered to make it. Football videos is certainly something I want to do more of, especially as I've really enjoyed this season. Watching this season, especially as a Liverpool fan, it has been absolutely insane, and it's kind of spawned me and urged me to do more football related videos. I watch a lot of football related videos. I'm always playing FIFA, but that probably doesn't really come across on camera, so I certainly wanted to inject that into the channel, and I thought what better way to start than to do a season review, taking a look at this season from the perspective of a Liverpool fan. 2019-20 season is probably one of the most crazy seasons we've had in recent memory, not just for a Liverpool fan, but for a football fan in general, mainly due to the coronavirus pandemic splitting the season and having the season have a bit of a hiatus for a few months and then it coming back with no fans in the stadium. That is quite a mental thing to just happen in between a season, and it's made this season come across as a bit disjointed. I can imagine certain fans probably couldn't wait for this season to be over because of its disjointed nature and the fact that if you had nothing to play for, this season will probably be a bit weird. However, I certainly enjoyed it, but I will say that the coronavirus pandemic has had quite a devastating effect on this season. The second half of the season, the half after the coronavirus break, has certainly come out differently to what would have happened if the coronavirus break never happened. Certain teams that were riding high on momentum just couldn't keep it up after the break and ultimately ended up with rather disappointing seasons. However, still certainly made for an interesting watch, and it made the end of the season very unpredictable. An unpredictable end to what had already been a pretty unpredictable season. There have been a lot of teams that had been underperforming, a lot of teams that have been overperforming, and it's one of the most interesting recent seasons in memory. Probably the most interesting season since Leicester winning the league back in 2016, I believe. Obviously, Liverpool were the main highlight of this season. Liverpool won a league title for the first time in 30 years, which is just absolute mental. I'm not 30, so I've never seen Liverpool win the league title before. And Liverpool have always been, even though they have the history, Liverpool have always been a bit of a joke club. People are always saying about, oh, when did you last win it? And people have never truly put them amongst the other teams in the league. Liverpool have always been laughed at a bit, and the same old jokes coming out. Steven Gerrard slipping over, you haven't won a title in 30 years, stop going on about the past, all this kind of stuff. But now Liverpool have finally won a league title, and it was a very cool experience. Everyone goes on about Manchester City, and maybe Liverpool didn't break all the records that Manchester City did, but that doesn't matter, because Liverpool won a league and they won it in style. I think what's so great about Liverpool, and even neutral fans will recognise this, is Jurgen Klopp as a manager has built this team from the ground up. Now what I mean by that is, with a lot of clubs, Manchester City as an example here, is that a lot of teams buy in their players, they buy success, they buy ready-made players for a lot of money, bring them to the club and watch them perform. That's a tried and tested format, and it seems to work pretty well. It seems logical. If you want to get a good player to fill a position, why not buy a good player from another club? Makes sense, but not Jurgen Klopp. That's not what he did. Rather than your Man United or your Man Cities where you buy superstars into your team to make it stronger, what Jurgen Klopp did is he essentially took a team of average players and made them into superstars. Jurgen Klopp essentially did what everyone attempts to do in a FIFA career mode. You buy players with very high potentials that aren't great at the moment, and you build them up into superstars. That's what Jurgen Klopp's done. He has spent very little money on this team, and that's absolutely insane. Mane from Southampton, Salah, a Chelsea flop from Roma, Wijnaldum, a flop from Newcastle. Fabinho, yeah, he cost 40 million from Monaco, admittedly. There are a couple of players that cost a bit of money. Van Dijk, Alisson, Fabinho, in that starting lineup that did cost a bit of money. But you look at Henderson, how much Klopp has improved him as a player, to the fact that he's lifted both the Champions League and the Premier League as a Liverpool captain. Look at Andy Robertson, was bought for peanuts from Hull, and now he's possibly the best left back in the world. Trent Alexander-Arnold came through Liverpool's academy, cost them nothing, and now he's one of the best right backs in the world. Joe Gomez, Liverpool bought him for nothing from Charlton, and look at him, he's now playing regularly for England. Mental, absolutely mental. Bobby Firmino, bought from Hoffenheim for about 20 mil, now you probably say him for about 80. Mental stuff. The brilliance of Jurgen Klopp is that it's easy to buy superstars for big money, but it's so much harder to take average players and to make them superstars. And that's where Jurgen Klopp has excelled as a manager. Because yes, he's bought in players, he's changed the squad dramatically from when he came in after Brendan Rodgers was sacked, yet he hasn't spent too much money. He's built players up. You've got players like Jordan Henderson, which you would never think would lift a Premier League and a Champions League, yet he's won it, and it's perfectly deserved. Jurgen Klopp, that man, is brilliant. He's the best manager in the league, I don't even care. Pep, he's a good manager, no one can deny that, but I haven't legitimately seen Pep build a team from the ground up like Jurgen Klopp has done at Liverpool. And even neutrals will acknowledge how good a job Jurgen Klopp has done with this team. Liverpool have taken average players and made them superstars. And that progression, that growth has been so satisfying to watch. And Liverpool have probably been one of the most profitable clubs in the league in the last few years. The amount of money they spent on players compared to how much they could potentially sell them for is probably just absolutely insane at this point. Talking about those squad of players, let's talk about them, because they are the ones who have achieved the impossible. The determination of that squad is just admirable, to say the least. The fact that they got to a Champions League final, lost it, and then they had the strength to get to another Champions League final and win it. The fact that they missed out on a Premier League title with a points total that would have won you the league 4 out of 5 times. And then they had the determination to next season go and win a Premier League. You've seen teams like, even this season, Tottenham, after they lost the Champions League final to Liverpool, that broke their team. They went on a losing run, players left, Pochettino got sacked, But the thing is that the determination and grit of these players to not just crumble after you lose out to something twice, may I add. No, the determination to go and do it again is so admirable. And that's what gives me hope and gives me confidence that they can retain the title. With any other team you say, maybe. But the thing is, Liverpool have showed such determination to do things again and again and again. And I truly think they have the potential to retain their Premier League title. It certainly is going to be hard, but they do certainly have the potential to do that, just down to the morale and determination in that club. Liverpool have had an insane season, but it's also quite odd. Usually there's a figurehead that you can say that was the player that shone at Liverpool. Last season it was Virgil van Dijk, the season before it was Mohamed Salah. But this season I wouldn't really say there's been one player who's really stood out and shone. That's why when we come to the Footballer of the Year, the Premier League Player of the Year, so many people are saying De Bruyne. Why? Because no one's really stood out at Liverpool. There hasn't been that player who's just been exceptional. But that's not a bad thing, because whereas no players have exceptionally stood out at Liverpool, that's because they've just been exceptional as a team, as a unit. They've been great. All the players have come together and have all been doing their specific roles brilliantly. They just gel together so well as a team. The morale in the club is at an all-time high. You look at scenes of them after the game and it's just such a happy club. The happiness there is infectious. That helps this team performance. This team works as one. Yes, Liverpool's midfielders aren't the flashiest in the world, but they're workhorses. They do the dirty work, and it's the fullbacks that go up. They all work as a unit, and that's why Klopp didn't just buy in superstars. He brought in players that he could make play the way he wanted to play and could work as a unit, and that's why Liverpool have excelled so well. You have so many clubs where you just have superstars, but players consider themselves bigger than the club, but that's not what it is at Liverpool, because they work so well as a team. And yeah, maybe I would have liked a certain player to excel, but when you think about it, surely it's better that they work as a team, and rather than one person being exceptional, they've all been exceptional. So many players have progressed, as I said. The main one is Trent Alexander-Arnold. He's been fantastic this season. The maturity of this lad is just amazing, and the free kicks he scores, the pace he has and the assists he gets, and just his maturity, as I said, you see him in interviews, he really embodies what the club is all about. I think Jordan Henderson as well is someone who, yeah, he may go unnoticed by some people. He's not the flashiest of players, but he really is the heart and soul of that team, is Jordan Henderson. He's the captain, and when he doesn't play, you do sense it. He may not look like he offers a lot, but he really does, and I think he is such an underrated footballer. He's not the flashiest player, and, you know, he's not Liverpool's most important player, but there is certainly a difference when he doesn't play, and that surely shows you that he is a pivotal figurehead at Liverpool, and the improvement of Jordan Henderson over these last few seasons is absolutely immense. Bought him for 20 million from Sunderland, and Brendan Rodgers considered selling him when he first arrived, but to think from going from that, a flop, to where he is now, it's just incredible. Liverpool have had their ups and downs. I think the problem is that because the teams winning the league in the last few seasons have been so good, if you don't break records, people will see it as a disappointment because it doesn't measure up to certain other Premier League wins. Yes, Liverpool didn't get over 100 points like Man City did a couple of seasons ago, but do I care? Not really. The main thing was that Liverpool won the league, that Jordan Henderson got his hands on that Premier League trophy. That's what Liverpool fans care about. They haven't won it for 30 years. Last time they won it, my dad was 18. He's now 49. My dad was only 2 years older than me when Liverpool last won the league. That's insane that such a big club has had to wait so long, and I couldn't think of a better squad of players to get it, because as I said, Liverpool haven't just spent and brought their way to success. They've had to really get in the dirt and work for it. Liverpool have had to improve their players and mature them into the powerhouses they are today. And I haven't seen such a rewarding group of players deserve a league title like this team has. They utterly deserve silverware, and they've got it. And the amount that this Liverpool team has achieved and hopefully will achieve, the sky's the limit for this Liverpool team. They proved everyone wrong, And with a world-class manager at the helm and world-class players, the sky's the limit, as I said. This Liverpool team has proved everyone wrong before. They've proved the doubters wrong, and they can do it again. As I said, it hasn't been plain sailing for Liverpool. They did get knocked out of the Champions League, and they did end the season before the restart on a pretty bad run of form when they lost 3-0 to Watford, ending their hopes of beating Arsenal's Invincibles. And then across lockdown, they haven't played amazingly. They've lost a couple of games, and they haven't played great. And although I have lost my rag while watching it a bit, we need to acknowledge that these players knew they were winning the league for months before they actually did it during the months of COVID. So realistically, that's going to knock the wind out of your sails a bit, because you know you're winning the league, so what's there to play for? Though I would have liked them to continue playing and banging in goals and winning every game, it's understandable why they haven't, and that doesn't take anything away from this team's achievements. I would have liked them to stay in the Champions League and perhaps broken a couple of more records. But realistically, you've got to look at the season they've had, and they've won the league so many points clear. And you've got to commend them for that regardless of their shortcomings, they have really achieved the impossible. Obviously, this season's been great from a Liverpool fan's perspective, but overall, this season's been just a very weird one. A lot of teams such as Arsenal and Tottenham and even Man United before the restart have massively underperformed. And then you've got teams like Wolves, Leicester, Sheffield United that have kind of broken and really had a blinder of a season. It is a bit disappointing when you've got the top four for most of the season: Liverpool, Man City, Leicester, Chelsea, and then because of the restart, Leicester go on a bit of a bad run of form, United go on a really good run of form and break into the top four, knocking Leicester out, putting Leicester to 5th, and Man United finish 3rd. And this isn't just my Liverpool bias here, I just don't think Man United really deserve that space, because Leicester have been in there the whole season and utterly deserved it because they've had a fantastic season. But then again, fair play to Man United, they did go on an incredible run. It is a bit disappointing to see Leicester get knocked out of there after I would have really liked them to get in the Champions League, because they're a smaller club doing great things, and that was where they deserved to finish. Sheffield United as well missed out on getting Europe, so did Wolves when they were around those for most of the season. It is disappointing. Then you've got your familiar faces like Tottenham creeping in. That is a bit annoying. But hey ho, we could have counted on the big teams to underperform for so long. I do reckon it is going to be a lot tougher league next year, especially with some of these teams, most notably Chelsea. Some of the players they've brought in like Werner and Ziyech and potentially Kai Havertz, yeah, they're going to be challenging for the title probably next season. United, if they buy Sancho, are looking quite a strong outfit. And obviously Man City have been an incredible run of form, banging 5 goals against most teams they've played since the restart. And if they win the Champions League, then they'll be right up for winning the league again. So it's certainly going to be hard for Liverpool. Don't think they can stand still and not bring anyone in. They did that last season and it worked, but 3 seasons in a row with essentially the same squad, I don't know if that will work. I did speak about the determination of the players, but even so, I think you need to bring in a couple of players to freshen it up. Not an amazing amount of players. I think if you maybe brought in one marquee signing, maybe someone like a Thiago who's been heavily rumoured, and then the rest would just be maybe a backup striker / centre forward, a backup centre back, a backup fullback, and potentially a backup goalkeeper, is where I would be looking to strengthen the side. Not many changes to the first team, but just maybe some better backup players, because I think certainly this season has showed that Liverpool don't quite have the strength in depth other than its midfield. People like Origi and Minamino are fine to come on, but they haven't really showed their quality starting games, especially Origi. And Liverpool don't have a backup fullback. They're playing either Joe Gomez or James Milner at fullback if Robertson or Arnold is injured. So they definitely need improvement in those areas in terms of backup, because you look at Manchester City and the backup they've got, and you look at the backup of Liverpool, it's not very comparable. And Liverpool play most of their same team every week apart from rotating the midfield, so it's obvious why Klopp won't bring in superstars to just sit on the bench essentially. But I do think they need slightly higher quality backup players and maybe a couple of first team players if they just want to keep the chain moving and perhaps challenge again next season, because you can't stay static. You need to be improving all the time. That's what Liverpool was so good at, and they need to continue that. They can't afford to stand still because people will pass them by, unfortunately. Spoken about the top of the league, Liverpool, and the teams around there, but let's talk about the bottom of the league because it's been very weird down there. Now, Norwich, they play some good football. I like the football that Norwich play. They're very attacking. They create a lot of chances, but they just don't put them away, and they're not great defensively, so no wonder they finish bottom. But Bournemouth and Watford were two very odd teams that ended up going down. No one would have predicted those teams to go down at the start of the season. But Bournemouth, everyone loves Bournemouth, and their story from coming from the bottom all the way to the top is a wonderful story, and they're everyone's second team. Essentially, everyone loves Bournemouth, but they just went on a bad run of form, and even though they picked it up slightly at the end, it was far too late, unfortunately, and the fairy tale was over. Eddie Howe is gone. I wish all the best to Bournemouth. I would really like them to stay up, but it is what it is. Watford are an interesting one. I've always had a bit of a soft spot for Watford, mainly because I've done 2 career mode saves with Watford, one on FIFA 16 and one on FIFA 19, I think. So I've had a bit of an attachment for the club there, and they did it exceptionally well last season, but it's just been a shambles. Sacking Javi Gracia after 4 games, bringing in Quique Sanchez Flores, like why, and then bringing in Nigel Pearson from taking them from bottom of the table to safely above the relegation zone was an incredible feat from Pearson. And then to, despite what was going on off the pitch, because we don't know, but sacking him with 2 games to go was just ridiculous when those next 2 games are against Manchester City and Arsenal. Why would you do that? Those 2 games are you're banking on your safety, and you sack your manager with 2 games to go. What do you expect the caretaker manager to do? Watford have essentially gone down because of their owners, and not the players, not the managers, but their owners. They should have just stuck with Gracia. Yeah, he lost the first 4 games, but Wolves did have a great start to the season and they ended up finishing 7th. Just stick for your manager because he did great things last year. They should have stuck with Gracia, and because they didn't, it all went wrong. And I think after they sacked Pearson, especially with 2 games to go, everyone was kind of hoping them to go down. It is sad to see those 2 teams go because I have a bit of an affinity for both of them, but at the end of the day, if you're not good enough, you go down. Villa were especially lucky, either goal difference or they kept up by 1 point. So they definitely need to improve. I'm not sure if Dean Smith's the right man, but if he is, they definitely need to improve because they only just about stayed up. I reckon Palace will have a difficult season next year because they had a pretty shoddy finish. We've got teams like Brighton, who I think are pretty good. They did end up maybe in a little bit of a relegation scrap. Well, not in a relegation scrap, but they were the last team who weren't involved in a relegation scrap, the lowest team. So they certainly need to improve, but I think that team's got a bright future ahead of it. It will certainly be interesting, especially with the teams coming up. You've got Leeds, West Brom and Fulham. Now, Leeds and West Brom, I think everyone predicted to go up. My dark horse outsider pick to finish 3rd halfway through the season would have been Hull, but then they sold Jared Bowen and lost every single game pretty much and ended up bottom of the table, 24th, and got relegated to League One. So what do I know about football? Ended up being Fulham, and on day of recording, the playoff final was last night. I was hoping for Brentford to go up, personally, just because I like variety in the Premier League. I like when you get teams like Sheffield United and Cardiff going up, who haven't really been in the Premier League all too much. It paints a really interesting picture when you got all these different teams coming on it. It gives the league a very good sense of unpredictability because no one knows how these teams are going to perform. You used to get all the time the same teams bouncing back. However, in the last few years, I think the last team to properly bounce back was Newcastle, and that's just painting a very interesting picture because the Championship is such a hard league to come back from. It was just interesting when you're getting different teams coming up, so I was hoping Brentford would go up. It didn't end up being it. Fulham came up and they became the first team since Newcastle to bounce back, and now they're back in the Premier League. I think they definitely need some investment because watching it last night, they weren't a great side. But hey ho, who knows? I think the Premier League will certainly be interesting next year. Liverpool hoping to retain their title, Leeds hoping to make a stamp coming back into the league. All these teams could potentially go down, the bigger teams getting better. All this different stuff. Who knows what the Premier League is going to be like, but I certainly can't wait to watch it. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoy this video, leave a like, drop a sub, and hit that notification bell to stay notified for all my latest videos. And if you want to see more football content, it's something I certainly plan on doing in the future. So if you want to see that, drop it down in the comment section below. I know it's quite different to the other content I produce, but I just thought I like football, so why not? And yeah, I hope to do more football videos in the future. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and of course, a goodbye.